brought me to Earthkeepers started back when I was a Girl Scout. And just going to Girl Scout camp and living outside and doing things very simply. And we're talking the 1960s, early 70s,
Hmm.
and when really the whole ecology movement really was just really in infancy. And also, camp director was Native American Cherokee. I did not really know that, but she just had a very soft footprint for everything. And everything that we did is in the Girl Scout camp was intentional. And we recycled, we fed the pigs of whatever we had left over at the table. That was just it was a model, but I didn't even know it was a model. Um, and I carried that with me, and just the love of nature and being outside, even though I'm a suburban child and adult.
Yeah.
But that whole piece and learning about gardens and learning about water and being in Southeast Virginia when there have been droughts, having lived through just some various kinds of things, and realizing that the church did some really stupid things like always throwing away styrofoam, all of the things that they say, oh well, we really don't have to worry about that because we have money. And
Right.
just in terms of the waste that's there. So I was a school psychologist before I went into ministry. So I worked with children. I worked with children from doing all kinds of things. So I think it's just kind of part of me that when I decided to retire out of the parish and saw the Earthkeepers training coming up, I went, oh, this is a really nice intersection with who I am and who I am.
Hmm.
And in terms of, and just when going to seminary, loving that there were two creation stories, loving learning about the whole agrarian and pastoral culture of theology. And
Yeah.
I think that was always really important in terms of, let me walk away from the other phone. Anyhow, but those are the things that brought me to the Earthkeeper thing. The other thing that I did as a church pastor, and I became involved with the Elizabeth River Project, and the Elizabeth River Project works with the Elizabeth River,
Hmm.
and which is all over Hampton Roads. It does not have a source, but is arms of Hampton Roads in terms of the James River and Chesapeake Bay, but it is a very active uh, nonprofit and has worked at cleaning up the shipbuilding industry and the things that are in the toxins that are in the river. And they've done it without suing anybody because they've done it with collaboration.
Hmm.
I ended up as they have a River Star Home program, of which I'm a River Star Home, which meant you scooped the poop, you didn't put fertilizer down, um, and but so just some very, very basic kinds of things. And then I realized that my church, being on the Elizabeth River on another branch, could become a River Star church, although we never did. They weren't all that interested. But what happened is they put me on their looking forward team in terms of looking at what we needed to do for the next 10, 15 years in terms of objectives. And I got out of my theology and got to meet with fish biologists and the EPA folks and all kinds of scientists. And I'm thinking, oh, this is fun. So I was developing my project for the church to provide the theology with the Elizabeth River Project to partner together to bring the church into collaboration with this organization, which is a very, very cool group that's been around about 15 to 20 years now. So and they have been welcomed me with open arms in terms of, oh, you want to get the church involved? We can have River Star churches. And you can get recognition for this level of this. And if if you do more in the environment to do this. And so I've just had a lot of folk in there involved. It's primarily in leadership as women. The founder, it was a newspaper reporter, and left journalism to do this. So they're just all kinds of cool things that they're involved with. So in terms of being able to have resources, they know everybody in town, and they are very good collaborators. So the idea was that I would do some work with them and try to get my churches involved with projects with them. So I have not gotten as far with that as I'd like, not because they aren't interested, it's because trying to generate church folk when you're not in that particular church is a little more difficult, when you don't want to step on pastoral toes and that kind of thing. So it just has taken a little bit more time than I'd wanted, but hopefully it'll be a good thing. In terms of the DC event, I was really excited. I've never been to or done a march of any type before. You know, I'm not an activist in that sort of, I'm generally a behind the scenes kind of person. But it was, I really enjoyed the conference. I really enjoyed the Native American worship. I enjoyed interacting with those guys in the small groups. And I really enjoyed the young woman who was representing the Bold Alliance with the Virginia pipelines that are coming through. So I really felt good about that. And then going to the disinvestment seminar. And I've been working with my financial advisor to do that very thing in some investments I have. It's like, okay, I was able to take some information that was passed along there and take them to my investment person, Bonnie, and say, okay, here's some things I'm really interested in. And she's very interested too. So that's the advocacy piece. As far as the march itself, being one of 200,000 does tend to say, okay, I'm not out here all by myself.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that they had the Native Americans first, that the Black Lives Matter movement was up there, and we had the vulnerable people, the most vulnerable people out first. And as I said, I gathered at the Methodist building, and then before the march really got started, we went off and had some lunch, because I was there with a couple of other people that were not part of, that are interested but not part of the Earthkeepers group. And then we walked back, and to see the people, the extra couple of thousand people that came and joined at the White House that weren't a part of the major march but were coming streaming in, and how all of that grew together, and just walking back and then walking some forward was just a really heartening experience in terms of just knowing that there are a lot of us out there, and that a lot of us may be working on varied parts of all of this climate change thing, but that there is a unity in intent, and it was also just the level of enthusiasm that was there. I really, really enjoyed. So I got back on the train, Amtrak, at the end of the march, basically, and came home for rode home for 3 hours. So I got a chance to kind of sit with that for a little while. And there were a couple of other marchers on the train, in my train car, and that was fun. So we just kind of shared some of the energy there. So and I was able to kind of come home and talk a little bit about it to some friends. Haven't really had a chance. I'd like to preach in a couple of churches and be able to bring that experience of what that was like. But people have been really interested in being able to in hearing about it. So that was a good thing too. Well, what gives me heartburn is the fact that we say we're going to make disciples, but we leave off for the transformation of the world. And we and a lot of our Southern Baptist friends, and I'll say that because they told me this, not because I'm just making the assumption, say, yeah, well, they don't think it's something that the church needs to be involved in because it's not making disciples. And I'm going, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I talk about our mission statement to transform the world because, hello, we're not going up to heaven. The Revelation says that Jerusalem comes down to us.
Right.
And I think we need to really pay attention to that. Plus, as far as I know, God didn't give us an example of when this world was going to end. And no, I don't think our abusing the earth is going to make him come anytime sooner. So we better darn sight take care of it because we've been wrong before. We've been wrong for the last couple thousand years. And I don't expect me to be right about when God is coming. So that's the part that is I have to do battle with, and that's why I want to get in and do Bible study and take the theology part of this to the folks in a direct way, not oh well we need to think about this or that and the other, but just to say, okay, what are your thoughts about the end of time? What do you think you're going to be judged on? How do you think your relationship with creation is going to enter in when you face judgment? I think those are questions that need to be really answered. So those are the things that give me pause. The hope is that when I've come back and talked, oh, you mean there's some things that we can do? There's people that are interested but don't feel like they have any hope. And here I've connected with this whole community of Elizabeth River Project who've got tons of possibilities and tons of information. To me, I'm the Andrew of the disciples that brings the lunch to Jesus. Let me just connect you two and let you all figure out how to do this. But then to also pick and prod a bit so that it actually gets done rather than just thought about. So that's the part, and the more I talk, the more I find people that are interested. And what I have to find is some people that are truly not only interested, but are willing to take the step to, okay, what can we really do here, and to be a model. So my project is really to take 3 or 4 small churches and become an initial prototype on how to leverage, how to do, and whether it starts with the river, and we're our area is after New Orleans next, and Florida next in sea level rise for being a problem. But if we start there, we start with living shorelines. We talk about how we manage the water and how we manage sea level rise, and then how we manage farming and agriculture. I think really people are really interested in that, and those are things that are really easy to come up with theology. So I want to start there, and I want to start with churches that don't have a lot of hope about themselves, and being smaller ones, and that this gives them double reason to bring people together, and bring people together in something hopeful that also is blessed through our Creator and through our Savior. So there you have it.
Okay.
And thanks so much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good
Okay,
week.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.